Bechard.
Bechard.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to provide is true and accurate?
Yes.
Mr. Jorde?
Will you please state your name?
My name is Maureen, Maureen, Elbert, Elbert, and then Bechard is Bechard.
All right, and you're here to speak about ground in your family located in Palo Alto County, is that correct?
Yes.
And there's 2 affected parcels, correct?
Yes.
And in preparation for these proceedings, there was pre-filed testimony prepared related to the land and concerns about it that was previously submitted. Do you have any material corrections to that testimony?
No.
All right. Are there any material updates based on events that have occurred since that time?
Well, I would like to have added an article that I submitted about fossil fuel companies made bold promises to capture carbon and what's actually happened. As I was reading more and more about all this, you know, a lot of our things that we hear big promises are, you know, when you look at the big study across the world, there's a lot of missed carbon capture targets, a lot of cost overruns, billions of dollars that taxpayers are paying or used for tax credits, and they're not meeting their targets and their goals. So I'd like to have that added so people read it.
Okay, very good. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to offer Exhibit 344 pre-filed testimony along with 642 and 654.
Are there objections? No objections. Seeing no objections, the board will admit.
And ma'am, just so you know, Exhibit 654 that was just put into evidence is that article that I believe you referenced, just so you know.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I'm going to, well, let's see. Yes, with that, I'll tender you for cross-examination for the other parties.
Hey, Mr. Taylor?
Thank you. I'm Wally Taylor. I represent the Sierra Club. Just so we're clear, are you the owner of this land?
Currently, my dad is the owner. We're in the trust that will be given to us. So my dad owns it. My older brother farms it, and my other brother and I will inherit the 2 sections in which the pipeline is going to.
In the prepared testimony, it says that the risks of this pipeline are too great. What risks are you talking about?
Well, I refer to the risk that this farmland's been in our family for 147 years. My family's taken very good care of it. We had to keep it. Everybody's had to work really hard to earn it and save it through the time. The land's been taken very good care of. And the risk that go along with this, you know, when this goes into this targeted easement, we have an extensive amount of tiling in there. And with that tiling, it will all be damaged for the most part.
How do you know that?
Well, the majority of the tiling is on the north side of where the sections, and where the tile is where the pipeline goes. So there's 16 lines of tile that will be cut, and there's 3 outlets that go out to the north and to the west that will be impacted by where the pipeline's going.
Are you aware that Summit has said that they will bury the pipeline at least 2 feet below the tile and not damage any tile?
Yes, I've heard that, but given what I know about listening to my dad and my brothers and everyone else talk about tiling, once you damage the land, you know, there's going to be compaction, the topsoil is going to be messed up. Our yields are going to go down. The value of the land will go down. There was a study by Iowa State in 2021 that said when the Dakota Access Pipeline went through, extensive soil damage, the construction activities had adverse effects on the soil, physical properties, resulting from the mixing topsoil with backfill, what was brought in to fill the pipeline trenches and soil compaction was all very damaging. It discouraged root growth and reduced water infiltration. So that's what we know happens when you wreck land. I know that we hear promises or we hear statements, but given some of the experiences we've had or members of my family have had, I don't have a lot of faith that what they say will actually happen on down the line.
What experiences are you talking about?
Okay, let's see. We looked into the IUB contract log, and it said that they've had 16 in-person contacts with my dad. That's not just the phone calls and emails and all that jazz, but 16 in-person contacts. When in reality, they've only met with my dad twice. So they say they met 16 times, and they've only met twice.
Have you personally ever talked to a Summit rep?
I have not. Not.
Have your other siblings or other relatives?
Yes, I'll get to that. Hold on. So, my dad is 91. He has been engaged in farming all of his life. He was in the combine last year and part of this year, actually. But to manage all the overwhelming impacts of all this, my brother, the one who's farming for the most part, has been taking on a lot of it. They both attended the meetings in Emmitsburg and in Spencer. The feeling that my brother got when he asked questions, or what my dad heard when they asked questions, was being kind of dismissed or belittled. They were asked if the pipeline could be moved, and there was a lot of hedging of answers then at one of the meetings, and then at the next meeting, it's like, nope, that's where it's going to go. That's the deal. The other situation that led to a lot of frustration is when my brother got the message that they were going to be surveying, or they had the right to go survey. So my brother really wanted to be there. He really cares about what's going on there. So he wanted to ask to be there when they went onto the land. To try to figure out how to talk to somebody, he had to call Ames to get a number of somebody to call. Finally, when he did get to talk to somebody, it was after he made multiple calls and not being returned for the longest time. And then when he talked to the person, he was assured that they would let him know when they were going to go on the land to survey. My brother also was trying to bring up the fact that this is heavily tiled and it really, really is expensive. It's like, I think there's $70,000 of tiling that have gone into that. When he tried to talk about the tiling with the rep, it was pretty clear the rep was giving a lot of lip service, but really didn't understand the full impact of tiling and how it all impacts a farmer and why that was so critical. So between not being honest about when they're talking to my dad, between how they treated my brother, I guess, in multiple situations, who is the farmer, I guess too, they would call my dad at like 9:40 or 8:45 at night at different times. So those are reasons. And then when you read and hear what's going on here, there's just a greater sense of distrust that what will be said to make this possibly happen, we probably won't have any power once it all happens.
If we bring up the KMZ map, please. Do you see the map on the screen there?
Yes.
Okay. And does the red portion look like the parcel we're talking about?
Yes.
Or is there more than one parcel?
It's two different sections to put together.
Okay, east and west?
Yes.
All right. And it looks like on the west edge there are some buildings. What are those?
That is a shed, a storage shed, and then another smaller shed where we store stuff and keep things for that side of our farming area.
Okay, and it looks like the pipeline route would go on the north side of your property, east to west. Was there ever any discussion, as far as you know, with any Summit land agent or representative about moving the pipeline route?
Yes, that's why my brother brought it up in Emmitsburg at one point. It was kind of dismissed, and then when he was over at Spencer, he tried to bring it out more because he wanted. I mean, we don't want the pipeline at all. But if you're going to put it in there, could it be moved and put it on the south side because that's a whole lot less tile? I think there's only one outlet down there, and maybe 7 tile lines that would be cut.
And the response was?
No, it's already established. The pipeline's the pipeline, where it's going.
Do you know if the property owners to the north of your parcel have signed an easement?
I do not know that.
Was there discussion about moving the pipeline to the north?
There's never been a discussion about moving it. I mean, there's been discussion making it really clear we don't want the pipeline. From both of my dad when he talked to the land agent when he came to the house. Multiple reasons because we don't want the pipeline in our land, and also it's really, really wrong to have to say it can be taken from us by eminent domain. So we have never got past the no, it's not going to be moved. There's never been any more discussion.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, with no other questions, then Ms. Colas beat us right at the line. Ms. Colas.
Good morning, I'm Jean Colas. I just have a few questions. Do you have a map of the tile lines?
It was submitted. I don't have it it was submitted at one time. I don't have it to pull up there. Well,
Is there any way we could reference that with the exhibits that she submitted?
I might have a copy in my pile back there, but I don't know if you want me to run and get it. Okay.
Ms. Colas, what is your question exactly?
I was questioning where her tile lines, her 16 tile lines were located or were impacted by the pipeline, proposed pipeline.
Well, for how wide the easement is, they all go in that top part. They'll all be cut.
Because it goes from east to west, your tile lines,
Yes.
for both parcels.
And the two outlets go to the north and one goes to the west. Yes.
You indicated that you were completely against construction of the pipeline. Is that because of safety?
Yes, I mean, there's all kinds of evidence that it's not safe, and the regulations for this type of pipeline, I don't think are as current as, or up to date, or meet the demand of what's happening in society. I guess regulators are probably behind, but we probably should know what the safety is needed to make that happen. So for safety, yes, I'm very against it. I don't want my brother to pull up there to farm and some kind of leak and have something happen to him. I mean, we wouldn't know.
That's why I was wondering if he was forced in order to farm the northern section of that land, if he could access it, whether his transporting farm equipment repeatedly over that pipeline would cause a risk to him.
Yes, that would cause a huge risk to him. And I think that's part of what's so hard about this, is because all this wears on everybody in my family so much. Like, you have to constantly think, what would happen if that broke? Or how does this have to be imposed on me? Or I don't want this. We own this land. The constant strain and stress and unknowns, and then the knowledge that you probably won't have any power after this all falls into place, is demoralizing. It's frustrating. It's angry. As a mental health professional, I think it produces a whole lot of trauma in my family and other families. There's not enough mental health care in rural Iowa to take care of all this. So yes, I'm very worried about the safety, and I'm very worried about my family's ability to cope with it all, because it's a really difficult, wrong kind of situation.
Do you feel that this pipeline is being built for the good of the public, or for convenience, or for benefit?
No, I don't believe it's built or being built for public convenience or necessity. I looked up, and it looks like when I looked it up, it looks like 44 counties and 29 towns and cities have filed objections about this. And to me, that seems more like the public than a for-profit business. I mean, cities and counties are made up of people that pay taxes and that live and work here. So if that and there's all this push to not make it happen, that's the public. That's the people we should be I would think the government should take care of the people, which I think is one of the constitutional rights in the Iowa Constitution. But
so construction of pipeline on your property leads to compaction, which leads to poorer yield and income, risk and danger to the safety. And you indicated you had some exhibits you just brought into that the way it's been proposed for CO2 carbon sequestration or recapture has not actually done what it's been set to do, and in fact causes a huge burden and waste of taxpayer money.
yes, I agree.
Can you expound on that a little bit?
Well, it's tax credits. You know, I mean, and I'm no economist, and I'm not. As I understand it, the tax credits will help pay for this, and Summit gets to profit all of it. There's not really there's no economic gain for my family or my property if this all goes through. You know, I'll be left with damaged land, lower yields, land that wouldn't be as valuable to sell, land that I would be worried about, you know, what could happen on it at any time. So, yeah.
You're concerned about the liability if there's an incident on your property.
Yes.
Your Honor.
State the objection.
I asked and answered. The liability issue is addressed extensively in the lengthy pre-filed testimony at pages 19 through 21, 36, and 40, as well as some exhibits.
Okay. Mrs. Coles, do you have a response to the objection?
Okay, if it's in the testimony, it's in the testimony. You've had the land for 147 years, and through that, all those years in different climates, etc., and through your own sweat and care, that you and also financial input to take care of this, and also to pay off the farm. Do you think that it is fair that you're forced to have the burden of being forced as a Exhibit H landowner of having this thrust upon you?
No, I can't even believe it's possible. I mean, this is not a public necessity. It doesn't meet, public convenience. The Constitution of Iowa says the rights of persons are to have certain rights, which are enjoy, defend liberty, life, acquire, possess, and protect your property. We can't even really protect this if this happens. The second Bill of Rights was political power. All political power is inherent in the people. The government is instituted for the protection and security and benefit of the people. And then I thought it was interesting too, in the articles of the Bills of Rights was, in 1857 they decided that agricultural leases should only be granted or reserved for rent no longer than a period of 20 years. So the way this goes, if it goes, I'm forever connected to property that I have no rights on. And the other one I thought was interesting in the Bill of Rights too was all laws, it's section 6, all laws of the general nature shall have uniform operation. The General Assembly shall not grant to any citizen or class of citizens privileges or immunities upon the same terms that are not equally belong to all citizens. So I don't even know how this can happen. And this is what's so hard when you talk to a 91-year-old father who's been through a lot and lived to farm and did it well. Like, how can this happen?
So the length of the easement that they offered to you related to the 45Q, where funding is only going to be available for approximately 12 years, and they were offering you a forever easement?
Yes.
No further questions. Thank you.
Ms. Kaufman, I believe you're next.
I wanted to ask you about the eminent domain question again. Are you aware that it's been reported widely that 78% of Iowans oppose eminent domain for private gain?
Yeah, I read that. I mean, I read it, I've tried to follow, and it seems like sometimes the number fluctuates. But yes, I know it's not 100%.
So it seems like the majority of, if we can believe that, the majority of Iowans are not in favor of this project, and yet the government seems to want to be pushing it through. Is that my understanding of what you're trying to say?
Yes, I agree with that.
And why do you think that? Do you think it's our responsibility as citizens to oppose government policies that are bad, that we think are going to be bad for our state and our country?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we all need to do is stand up for ourselves. I mean, I think the process is really hard for a lot of people to stand up for themselves or be completely informed enough to be able to do something. I don't think there's been complete information about all of this to everybody. So yeah, we need to stand up for ourselves. I mean, if nothing else, I'm showing my own kids, you have to stand up for yourself. When something matters, and I mean, you got to stand up for yourself because this is not right.
This matters, yes, I agree. But another question is, do you believe that the IUB and Summit have been really apparent on how easy it is for us to, I mean, do you think that they should have a role in educating the public about what's going on here other than, it seems to me that, excuse me, I can't say that. Do you think that there's been enough public information covering this whole thing? Do you think the public is aware of what's going on here?
I think throughout these hearings, a lot of information has risen to the top. And fortunately, there are some good reporters that are getting the news out or people are sharing. So I think a lot of news, factual news, has risen to the top, but the general population doesn't know all that. I mean, I do think the IUB board should be helping somehow with that. I don't completely understand what all of your roles, but if you're working for the state of Iowa, and people are supposed to be impacted and you're supposed to be supporting people, then yes, they should know and they should be able to have a voice. I thought there was going to be some open comment time, but it seems like that might not be happening for people. So, yeah, I do think the public should know more, and not just the landowners or the people who can follow it, you know. I would think if a bunch of college kids or high school kids knew that some of this was going in their land and this is their future.
Do you think if eminent domain for private gain is allowed for this project, that it could be allowed for, it would make it much easier for other big private investment companies to take people's land and property?
I think that's part of the reason we got here. I believe the Dakota Access Line was approved. And in my mind, I guess that might have more public good, or at least might have had some. I don't think this does. And yeah, so if this happens, then who's going to stop anybody from getting it? You know, any big company that has enough money behind it or enough political power behind it can make a lot of things happen. I don't have deep pockets. People have deep pockets. And if things go a certain way, then yeah, stuff like that will happen. And I'm really concerned about who actually is going to own it. You know, Summit may pass this off or sell it, or, you know, if it doesn't go through, dump it off somehow. But who's going to own this land? There's a lot of foreign investors, and I don't know if there's foreign investors necessarily for this, but I think people want Iowa farmland. They want access to this stuff. It's a lot of unknowns. So yes, I am worried that if eminent domain is approved, it could lead to a lot of other problems.
Thank you.
Ms. Greenhagen?
Thank you, Your Honor. Hi, I just have one question for you. About a dozen times in your testimony, you talk about how the project poses a threat of serious injury to your social or an economic condition. And I think I understand what economic condition is, but could you explain a little bit what you mean by being a serious threat to your social condition?
Socially, I guess as a mental health professional, I'm thinking about people's health. Is that what you want? Like that kind of social impact? I think if you think of social society, you think of people, and there's physical health, there's mental health, there's connections with other people. So socially, I think this impacts my family a lot. I think it impacts communities. I think it's dividing communities. Socially, hopefully in my future, my kids will take as much pride in owning farmland as my family has and want to be good stewards of the land. So socially, that matters to me. Is that answering what you're asking?
It does, thank you.
Okay.
No further questions.
Ms. Hike?
Hello, Ms. Bechard. I'm Chris Hike. I'm a landowner. Hi. In your pre-filed testimony, you mentioned about approximate location is noted in your easements. That's a concern for you?
Say that again, like that.
You have approximate locations in easements from Summit?
Yes. Yes, so where the
Objection, Your Honor.
State the objection.
The discussion of the voluntary easement, aside from not being an issue in front of the court, but that's sort of mooted out by the filing of the Exhibit H, which has very specific locations for the easement that, if the board approves, it's locked into the location shown on the Exhibit H.
Ms. Hike? Ms. Hike, do you have a response to Mr. Dubinsky's objection?
Well, I don't understand what he said, but whatever.
Okay.
I'll move on to another question. when I saw the KMZ map, I did not see, like any towns close by. How far away is a town?
Well, a town with a hospital is probably about 11 miles away. There's Ayrshire and Curlew are closer, but, they don't have medical help. I mean, there's an emergency, 20 minutes. I mean, you one, if anybody even knew it happened, because, most farmers are by themselves when they're farming. If you're going to be knocked out in 60 seconds, there's no way anybody would be helped. And I can't imagine the community of volunteers would ever be adequately trained to manage this, because it's a very complicated, complex situation.
Thank you.
Board Member Burns?
Just a couple clarifying questions. I am also curious, Ms. Coles and I are thinking the same thing here. Tile maps, so you said you submitted those?
Yeah, we should have them. I mean,
Mr.
I
Jorde,
do not
were
see.
you
I
able?
I have one back there. If you don't, I think I have one.
Yep, so I think what she's thinking of is they were submitted in Discovery to Summit. They've been uploaded in the last minute or two as Jorde Landowner Exhibit 656, which is the identical about 16 or so pages of tile information that we submitted to Summit previously. So they're uploaded as of this time.
They are not, however, through and posted on the public system yet. I doubt if it's just tile maps will have any objection, but I'm happy moving on with that as we did yesterday, subject to an objection when we see it, so conditionally.
That's fine, that's fine.
Okay, just good to know. I'll look for those once they're filed, and I've seen tile maps, we'll read through them, so I just wanted to know that those were available for our viewing. So second question, you talked about meetings that your dad and your brother attended, and I think you said they attended a meeting in Emmitsburg and Spencer, is that correct?
That's what I believe. Yes.
Okay, and then those meetings, because one of the things I've learned throughout the hearing here is that there were some other meetings with the company outside of like the public information meetings. So
Yeah, I don't believe they attended any other formal or arranged meeting that way.
Okay. So are you thinking that the meetings that you're referencing were the public information meetings
Yes.
that were put on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, thanks.
Ms. Jorde for redirect?
Okay, so we cleared up the tile map issue. Number two I'd like to address is they've told you the pipeline can't move, but you understand there is no pipeline, right?
Yes.
Okay, and they're saying lines on a map can't move.
Yes.
Okay, and would you agree if they decided to outlay any amount of money for easements before figuring out if this was a workable route for all people, that was their business risk they chose to undertake?
Yes.
Would you buy land with a CO2 pipeline on it?
No.
Okay. For all of the reasons I suppose you've already testified and that are in your pre-filed testimony.
Yeah. If I can buy land, I wouldn't buy something that's damaged and impacted by who knows who in the future. I mean, you wouldn't have any control over it. Isn't that why you're a farmer, so you have some self-control and some management of your own life?
You also talked about the IUB as the public voice. Sitting to my left is counsel for the Office of Consumer Advocate that is supposed to be advocating for consumers and participating. Throughout these proceedings, have you been aware of their almost non-existent participation?
I I can't watch all of them. You know, I work full time, so I haven't been able to watch everything. But when I have watched, I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anybody besides lawyers really standing up for, I guess, the consumers, the taxpayers.
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that the Attorney General and the Governor are cozy with Bruce Rastetter and just simply want to push this project through for him?
Objection. Calls for speculation.
Okay, Mr. Long, your light was on, then your light was off. Okay, Mr. Jorde, do you want to reply to Mr.?
Certainly, her opinion cannot be speculation. It's her opinion.
Well,
Hold on. All right, we are on redirect, just as a reminder. So I don't recall that issue coming up during cross-examination. So if we can try to keep our redirect limited to redirecting any questions asked during cross, please.
Well, in response to Ms. Grunehagen's line of questioning, she asked you about social impacts. Would you agree that it's a devastating social impact to have the elected officials of this state so close to Mr. Rastetter in this project, such that socially it gives the view to people out there that this is hopeless, that the fix is in, and their rights are all pointless, they can't exercise them?
yes, I would agree with that.
And you mentioned you're a mental health professional, so we talk about land and tile and these kind of things that are definitely real problems and economic impacts, but we haven't touched a lot on what you had brought up, which is the direct and real mental, and then translating that into physical health problems. Do you have any more thoughts about that?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'll go back to trauma. Trauma is a repeated, prolonged, invasive series of events, or it could be one, that makes people feel more vulnerable. It impacts their mental health and their physical health. It's not separated. So I know my dad's 91 and aging takes its toll, but I know having to think about this and trying to figure out what was best kept him up at nights, tormented him, I would say. And so the social impact of this is more than probably profits for Summit and moving on past the political time of now. But what about kids who are farmers or want to be farmers? And how do you see, like, you could work, but then your land can just be given away, and this could happen to you? So I don't know, maybe we don't want small farmers, maybe we want corporate farms, because that seems like how this would work, not caring about the individual.
Thank you for that. I don't have any further questions.
Before we dismiss Ms. Bechard, I know Mr. Dubinsky did not object to Exhibit 656, but I wasn't 100% sure if you were moving to admit it.
I appreciate that. Let's make a formal offer of Exhibit 656, which will be the tile maps for the Elbert Trust.
And if you can give me just 30 seconds here, it has now come through. Let me just take a quick look. No objection.
Okay, no objection, the board will admit. Now you're excused. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next witness, Mr. Jorde?
Yes, Eric Seidener, and he will appear virtually for the Dolores Seidener Family Trust.